LarryandGregg.com, February 7th, 2013. Here we go.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to LarryandGregg.com. You can still follow us on Thursday War Room, but we're now switched over to LarryandGregg.com. We have a web page up now. At the end of this show, I'm going to let Gregg explain it all to you. Gregg built the whole thing. He's the computer guru and the producer and everything of this show. He takes care of all that, so I'll let him explain it to you at the end of the show.
It was a group effort.
But for now, we got a lot to talk about. We ain't talked to y'all since last Thursday. Tons of stuff's gone on. Last Thursday, we had our Super Bowl preview. Last Tuesday, we got into a lot of news topics with you, so we really need to get going and get this rolling. Speaking of the Super Bowl, great Super Bowl, Gregg. Great game. Power outage. Beyonce had a great halftime show, one of the better ones I've ever seen. Commercials lacked again this year, like I thought. We said the same thing last year. But as far as the game's concerned, I thought it was a great game. I thought both teams played well. Baltimore deserved to win that game. They played better, especially the first half.
Deserve?
They played better the entire game. San Fran played a half a game the second half. They didn't come out of that locker room in the first half. But here's what I'm going to say. San Fran did not play a bad game. There was bad play calling. Bad play calling on San Fran, coming from San Fran's sideline. It had nothing to do with the talent or the players.
Isn't that a little Monday morning quarterback type stuff? I mean, only from the standpoint, because are you pointing to the...
You don't run Kaepernick to the second half. You don't...
They were shutting them down early.
You don't use your run game properly. You don't open up your pass game.
There
were three and out. There was a lot of things I thought. But then you come out in the second half, you open up your offense, you use the offense and the play calling that got you to the Super Bowl, but 21-3 to go into the second half, Baltimore comes out, runs one back on you, which was a killer. That was a killer. 28-3. Now, you come back, score 17 points inside of what?
Well, let me ask you this. Before we even get to their comeback, do you think, when you saw the outage, you saw that it was, they first came on and said it was 15 minutes, and this is after, like you said, they ran back a kickoff return, and then they stopped them two times really quick. It was 3rd and 9 before San Francisco got back on the field. Do you think, were you thinking sort of conspiracy when that was happening? Because I'll tell you what, once everything started rolling and it looked like it was really getting out of hand, then after that, and I understand that you regroup, but then all of a sudden they start going forward and forward. And
I don't believe in a conspiracy thing, Gregg. I'm not that kind of person. What I did think was, the longer it went on, I went, this is going to kill Baltimore. Not the Baltimore Ravens, but because Baltimore had all that momentum going.
They were able to stop it.
They come back out. First of all, you go into the half with tons of momentum. It's in the Super Bowl, it's a little bit longer halftime. You come out. You're worried at your team. You want to make sure they're still firing on all cylinders. This kid comes out, runs one back, 108 yards for a touchdown. Bam, momentum's flying. Everybody's pumped. Power outage. Any breaks like that long, takes momentum away. I don't care how much you stretch, how much you pass the ball around, and it showed. San Fran came back inside of 3 minutes or whatever, scored 17 points. Tightened up the game.
It was longer than 3 minutes, but they came back and they looked like they were rolling hard.
And so I said, here we go. And there's going to be all kinds of news about conspiracy and everything else. And Baltimore, more than San Fran, would have had a legitimate argument about, if they'd have lost that game, Harbaugh could have screamed and hollered till he was blue in the face. Now, crybaby Harbaugh on San Fran's side, Jim Harbaugh, who cries about everything. If you watch him on the sideline all year, there's a difference between anger, intensity, motivation.
He's fired up.
He ain't fired up. He's a crybaby. He's the biggest crybaby ever.
Player.
He was a crybaby then.
Not saying he wasn't.
That's why he wasn't very good as a player.
You can't say he's a crybaby. He wanted calls.
Let me go back before we get on to that real quick. We can talk about that all day. Last week during the show, when we broke down the teams, we agreed that Baltimore had the better defense, simply due to their defensive backs were better. We agreed that the offenses were pretty close, talent-wise. We disagreed on the better. I said Flacco was the better quarterback, simply due to the fact that he'd been there in the playoffs 4 years in a row prior. He was the veteran quarterback. You said, veteran nothing. He's not that good. Veteran won't matter. This and that. Veterans find ways to come through.
Right, but who came through was the defense. I understand where you're going, but you can't tell me. I mean, if you look, and don't get me wrong, he had great numbers, And what I told you off show was that what they need to do to win, and I told you before, I don't trust Flacco. And after this game, guess what? I still don't trust him. And the reason why I don't trust him is that he's not consistent.
You don't trust him based on his past 4 years' performances. But he's a different quarterback this year.
With Anquan Bolden making plays like he did, absolutely.
The whole offense is different this year. They play a whole different offense, especially since the new OC come in. Their whole offense changed.
And to credit to your point, Baltimore defense has never given up more yards in the playoffs ever. Okay, so I get that. But what I'm also saying, and I also understand that Baltimore is trying to turn over the team to the offense. And they need to believe in Joe Flacco to do that. But when you look at what he did during the season, that type of – and don't get me wrong, he caught hot, and I give it to him. And I picked Baltimore to win. Mm-hmm. Because I thought that he was going to make enough big plays despite inconsistencies to win the game.
To your point you just made a minute ago about Baltimore's defense turning it over to the offense, needing the offense to pick it up so they could win.
This was the torch passing.
Do you think that torch passing is going to be more evident this upcoming year than ever with Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, and whoever else they're going to lose?
Do they keep Reed? Do they give Suggs his money? Do they give Nada his money? Do they keep Pita? Do they get rid of Bolden? Do they get rid of,
Well, I mean, as far as the defensive side, the offense better pick it up and start scoring points, because if the defense lacks it all, they're going to have to play. They're going to have to score and run with every team they play, especially in the AFC. When you're playing a Houston, or you're playing a Denver, or you're playing a New England for that matter. I mean, you're going to have to be able to put points on the board. If your defense can't stop these teams, and you got like a New England who can score 30, 40 points a game, you got to match them.
Yep.
So, they better get together. But I was impressed with their playoff run and Flacco's performance, especially Anquan Bolden.
Were you more impressed? And if we go back a little turn in history, everybody asked Eli Manning the year he won the Super Bowl, was he an elite quarterback? He said yes, and everybody started throwing rotten apples at him. And what did he do? They backed him to the playoffs, and they caught fire, and they made the impossible come true, and they won the Super Bowl. Same thing happened to Flacco this year. As a New York Giants fan and now a person of the media, let me ask you this objectively. Are you more impressed with Manning's run or Flacco's run?
Right now, Manning's, and I'll tell you why. One, he's done it twice. Two, in both times, very difficult. Very difficult. But the caliber of teams Manning had to play. That's why. I'm not being biased. He played, listen, you're talking about a San Fran. You're talking about a Green Bay. You're talking about an Atlanta.
An Atlanta who didn't prove. So let me ask you this.
Who had the best record in the NFL last year and got pounded. We only let them score 2 points.
Would you rather go through Joe Flacco's gauntlet of an uprising Andrew Luck, then a rejuvenated Peyton Manning, a Tom Brady in Foxborough, and then a Colin Kaepernick? Or would you rather go through what
Matt Ryan
hadn't proved himself yet?
What?
He did?
Matt Ryan.
Back then he did.
Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Aaron Smith. Alex Smith was there with San Fran that year, and then Tom Brady. So if you really want to chalk it up, it's pretty close. They both ran a gauntlet that was tough to do. But
I'll give it to you that close.
Okay, but here's the thing. Here's the point I want to make before we move on from the Super Bowl. Won't go too far with it. You did it again, and you know how I feel about this when reporters do it and everything else. I hate tags. I hate tags. When you say, everybody says it to me, backing in. Does it matter? And here's the reason I'm bringing this up. Because the other day when we were talking...
Well, let's talk about my definition of backing in.
Because the show we did last week, or the week before, on Tuesday, when we were talking about the NBA, and you were saying they don't have to play these guys hard. These guys don't have to score 30 points. They don't got to do this. They can rest this one. They can rest that one. It's about getting in the playoffs. Bam. It's about getting in the playoffs. How many times have New England or Atlanta or anybody else, Indianapolis with Peyton Manning for that matter, went into the playoffs with the best record in the league, and that was all they did?
Right, but there's also something to say to your point, and this is what I mean by backing in. When I say backing in, it means that you're barely going to make the playoffs and you need help from someone else. The Ravens could have lost 5 of their last 7 easily, and they lost a bunch of them. They backed into it because when you saw them, it didn't look like they had momentum. And the same thing happened with the New York Giants. They didn't look like they had momentum. Now, when I was talking about the NBA, that's a little bit different because backing in, you have 82 games there. In the NFL, you really don't. You only have 16. So when I say back in from the NFL standpoint,
so you think if Pittsburgh wouldn't have been so off kilter this year?
What I'm saying is that if you look over time, and we'll have to do our research on this, it really looks like the teams that win a whole bunch of games don't always do it. It really comes down to the teams.
The fire's gone by then.
That decided that they're going to get hot, stay hot, and remain hot. And if you look at what Ray Lewis did, this is all orchestrated. And I said it before because everything to me pointed to the San Francisco. They're loaded. They have a roster that any team would kill to have. They have a coach that understands it. They can play 2 different styles if they need to. Everything to me pointed to San Francisco. But like I told you before, it's old man strength, and he ain't gonna let that young cat beat him. And that's the only thing I went with my heart on that one. And that's what it came down to. But did the Ravens back in? Yeah, they did.
Well, as far as this show goes, folks, I'm not going to let Gregg on this show or any media anywhere label or tag professional athletes or teams in a way to diminish or take away from what they did. They got into the playoffs. That was their job when they started the season. Let's win. Let's get in the playoffs. They got in. Second, once you're there, win the Super Bowl.
But that's not. But
all these hot teams like New England and all them, they go in there with their 13-3 record or 14-2 or whatever they go, and their mindset is we're going to win the Super Bowl. They don't take each playoff game one by one and go win it. They end up getting beat, just like they did this year, just like a Houston did. Just like an Atlanta did. I feel bad for Atlanta because they finally won.
You feel bad for them?
Well, in the sense that they finally won a playoff game, and you would have thought when that game was over, it looked like they won a Super Bowl. People were crying, stuff. People were hugging. I was waiting for confetti to come down.
That was their show. Wasn't Gonzalez crying, talking about poor me?
So I said when that celebration occurred that was it. They were done. That was the end of the of Atlanta right there.
Let me ask you one more thing, Mr. Rules, and we'll we'll keep this really short. So, on the last play, Kaepernick throws an obvious fade route, maybe a little bit over than what should have been. Crabtree runs into special teamer Jimmy Smith, who's playing in that dime, and he engages him first. He grabs him, holds him. The refs are letting them play it all game. Do you call a flag on that? Because technically, hold on. Technically, based on the rules, they should have thrown the flag.
You're sitting here holding your hands together and going, he's holding him. He did not do that.
I'm not holding my hands.
You were doing this like this, okay? You're both fist bumping. He did not do that. He did not do that. They were both tied up with each other.
Him.
And where Mike Floria came on and said, the referees made a good call for a couple reasons. One,
Christian.
Go
ahead.
But because all game they allowed things like that to go. You cannot, on the last play of the game, change the way you officiate the game. Two, they were both engaged with each other. And that's the reason the flag was not thrown. They were engaged with each other. Now, if he'd have caught that pass with a one hand on the sideline, drug his feet to get in, John Harbaugh could have complained that he was pushed off.
The
guy had his hands up.
I get it.
So the referees made a good decision.
My question is, should they have thrown the flag based on the way you view rules? So no?
They were all over each other. They were engaged with each other.
Okay.
In my mind, they were engaged with each other.
I agree with. I agree with you.
And I like how the referees.
I don't think they should have thrown the flag.
Exactly the same.
Let them play.
Game.
Let a little grab ass go on. And I loved it.
You know what I liked about it? We didn't have the typical Super Bowl game where they go, "Oh, we made a mistake here, so we got to make it up for the team over here." We've seen that happen too many times.
Yep.
They did not. They were on a straight and narrow. And you know what?
They called one pass interference play, and that was on 29 Collier, the guy that made the stupid comment in the Super Bowl press week before.
Yeah.
And, I don't call that karma, but sure is fitting.
Hey, now, but before we get off Super Bowl, let me say one thing, because he is a self-proclaimed greatest receiver in professional football based on talent, not numbers.
Ouch.
What was his name again? I can't even remember his name anymore. I don't care. Oh, Randy Moss.
It wasn't Santana Moss?
Oh,
no, you're right. It's Randy.
Where was this talented athlete during the Super Bowl? Where was this talent we were going to see? Randy, go home, take the summer off, evaluate your stupid comment, and realize that Jerry Rice is the best receiver in football.
I think he knows that now, and I think and I will not spend more than 10 seconds on this. I think he knows that he squandered his talent. I think he knows that what true Randy Moss came out where he didn't give his team 100% effort, and that is why he will never be the greatest wide receiver.
He'll be lucky to be there next year.
Wide receiver on the team, and that's 13 seconds.
All right, moving on. Here we go. Got some news to cover tonight. Greg, I thought it was funny. It's something I probably wouldn't have brought up on a show, but I couldn't help but laugh at it. I love how Forbes magazine, or not just Forbes, a lot of them that aren't your prototypical sports magazines, some of the stuff they write about is so idiotic, and where they come up with it blows my mind. But Forbes wrote a story recently saying that Lance Armstrong and Manti Te'o were the most disliked athletes right now. How do you come up with that? I mean,
I think you take an empty poll. Hopefully it's not done by the internet, which it probably is. So you can't really put too much stock into it. I don't really put too much stock into polls. But in terms of the most disliked athletes, I think it's a silly poll. Now, I think, if you were to say, who do you feel more bad for? I think it's Manti Te'o, because, he was basically in a relationship with a man for 3 years and didn't know about it. Now, I know Lance Armstrong was in the hot seat, but no one cares anymore.
No.
We're
say most disliked, no one's even thinking about it.
We're in the everybody feels bad for Manti Te'o, and nobody cares about performance-enhancing drugs in a bike race where they can't even give any of the titles that he cheated on because the number 2 and the number 3 guy also cheated. So I understand what Forbes is trying to do. They're trying to get headlines. They're trying to do everything like that, and I get it. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter.
Well, before we move on to some college basketball, Saints hire Rob Ryan, defensive coordinator. Thought he was going to St. Louis. That doesn't go through. All of a sudden, he said when he left the Jets, I'll be hired in, what did he say, minutes,
5
seconds?
minutes.
Well, it wasn't quite 5 minutes, but, hey, he went to St. Louis. I don't know what went on there. Here he is. I like Sean Payton as a coach. When they reinstated him, he was so angry with last season, how poorly they played and how bad they looked. He went in, cleaned house. I'd have been a nervous wreck if I'd have been waiting 3-4 offices down and heard him coming, knowing what was going on. He cleaned house. I'll be anxious to watch these Saints this year. You and I are going to talk about it later. Just for the record, we talked about predicting our top 5 teams next year.
Yeah.
Super Bowl winners. Then I'm going to put the Saints in there.
You shouldn't, but
I'm going to put the Saints in there.
We can talk about that later.
But we're going to talk about it. Hey, let's get on to some college basketball, Greg. It's in full swing now. We're into February. The end of this month, we're going to be in conference play and then moving on to the tournament. How about the other night, Tuesday night, number 2 Florida Gators lose to unranked Arkansas. And everybody would say Florida's supposed to win this easy, here, there, whatever. But Arkansas, at that point in time, was 4-0 at home. Yes, Florida looked flat. yes, Florida was turning the ball over steady.
But they were still kind of coming at him. And when you have a team that is shooting over 65, 70% from all areas of the field, you have Arkansas, the Razorbacks. I mean, that used to be Nolan Richardson's 40 minutes of hell. I'll tell you what, they gave him 40 minutes of hell down in Arkansas. And what happened is that they couldn't match their power. They couldn't match their quickness. They couldn't match. And you say flat, you know, and then people will all obviously say, hey, you know what, that sort of comes down to coaching. You know, based on the schedule that they have, I don't necessarily see that. But what I do understand is that this is the SEC. You have top caliber athletes, and these guys made great plays, and their fans did not quit. And, you know, for people that do not have an opportunity to go into a collegiate atmosphere, whether it's volleyball, soccer, basketball, football, it's electric. And when you get fans that really care, and that's what we saw in Arkansas.
Yep.
You got fans that really cared. I'll tell you what, they felt
that was like a 6-man on the court.
And you know, let's give all credit to the Florida Gators for the last 8 minutes they played, because they came back and they were playing heavy. But I mean, Arkansas was too much.
Now, will you get being on the bench? And I don't know yet how long he's out for. That knee's bothering him again. That's a big hit. You get's having a great season, but I don't know if he would have played if it would have been that much. I mean, if they would have still won. It was Arkansas was firing on all cylinders.
Not with the way Arkansas was shooting.
Anyways,
and I'm not saying it's not Florida's fault, because their defense, as haloed as it's been, did not do what it needed to do.
Let's move on to the top conference right now, in my opinion, in college basketball, which is the Big Ten. The other night, Michigan beats Ohio State. Was it double overtime?
I think it was single overtime.
Single overtime?
But it was damn close.
What a game. Michigan, both squads are great. But Michigan is an offensive scoring machine. Now, Ohio State ran with them. They're as talented everywhere on the floor, but I mean, that was the best game I seen Hardaway Jr. play this year.
Well, it wasn't just Hardaway Jr.
No.
It was Glenn Robinson III. And you know what? For them to come out, you know, 5 3-pointers in a row, rush the tempo, and I really like the way that the refs called the game. They let the guys play. Yeah. And it was a tough game. And, you know, and they need to do a better job, Michigan, in terms of using their talent to pull ahead, because I'll tell you what, this is a Final Four team.
Yep.
You know, and everybody's been comparing it to the Fab Five back in the early 90s. You know, I don't know if it compares with them, but I'll tell you what, this is a championship caliber team.
I think you can see two teams out of the Big Ten in the Final Four.
It's really tough not to watch them when they're on.
Oh, my God. You know, here in the Big Ten, Michigan State just beat Minnesota. Number 5, Kansas last night, loses their second in a row. They lost to TCU and looked terrible. They actually didn't look good at all, Kansas. You know, Greg, we were talking the other night about being in the top 5 of college basketball right now. It's like painting a bullseye on your back. I don't care how good you are. Everybody is gunning for you. And you're right, maybe not flat, but the other team can make you look bad quick.
Right, but unless it's baseball or volleyball or, you know, another sport, maybe even tennis, you don't see a lot of volatility in the top teams. When you look at football and you look at basketball, that's what you see, because these teams, you know, it used to be where there'd be a top team and they keep going on and on and on. But you don't have, with everybody leaving early, especially in basketball, you're not going to have that. And it is going to be topsy-turvy, you know. Yep. You're not going to have teams that stay there. And quite honestly, you know, over the past 3 years, I think you've seen teams constructed more to survive the regular season and then excel in the postseason, whether it's basketball pro, football pro, college basketball. They just want to get into the tournament. Yep. And if they get into the tournament, they'll handle the deal that's dealt to them. But I think that's what a lot of these teams are trying to do. And you know, and here's the other thing: improving your seed is not always going to help. No. Because now, you know, these mid-majors, Butler, Gonzaga,
they're tough.
You know, they're a pain in the butt. And guess what? They're not an easy rollover.
No.
Virginia Union.
ECU and all them, yeah.
They're not easy teams. So, I really feel that, you look at the Big Ten, you look at all these top teams, and they're all good and they all beat each other. But you know what? At the end of the day, I sort of think it matters only from the standpoint of how many teams can we get into the tournament so we can maximize our chance for the college basketball money. What it really comes down to, though, is getting into the tournament.
Right.
And some of these lower-tiered conferences, that's where they're having problems with these big guys rolling over.
Before we get off of college basketball, move on tonight, folks, college basketball is in full swing. It's getting so excited. Tonight you got number 1 Indiana playing Illinois, another Big Ten matchup, real exciting. I said earlier I think the Big Ten is a tough conference this year. It's the toughest conference. But we're going to get more in-depth into these teams, into these conferences, moving forward towards conference championship and March Madness. Greg, we got to step back before we move on to NBA or anything. Real quick, we talked earlier about the Saints. They got January 22nd, they got Sean Payton back. They just hired Rob Ryan. Let's talk a little about the Bounty Gate. Williams gets rehired today and is going to coach at Tennessee. He's just reinstated by Goodell. Players are all back in place or gone on to other teams. Nobody's still out. Is it over? Is it...
You know what? I'll tell you what. We posed this question on our website, and and we talked a little bit about it before this. I don't care, and I don't care. And when I say that, I don't care because I want it to be over. This was the last piece of the proverbial puzzle that is hanging over everyone's head, where they can still talk to it. He was suspended indefinitely. He was the first one to take the most heat the quickest. Yep. And he potentially gave a lot of information that they went on, and maybe it wasn't everything that they thought it was.
Yep.
I'm not saying he was the pin that unraveled the whole bun in the bow, but I'll tell you what, for him to get suspended indefinitely and everyone else have a time limit on it, it's real precarious that, it hasn't even been a full year, I don't believe, that he's been suspended, and then now all of a sudden he's reinstated. I think, the NFL understands that they took a big PR hit. I think this is more evidence that Goodell didn't know. Goodell didn't know what he was doing, and hopefully this is the end of it. We don't have to talk about it ever again. It'll fade in the distance like Spygate.
I agree.
And ideally, we can put this to bed. Hopefully.
All right. And you know what? Moving on to the NBA, I'm going to say this again. I know I've talked about it so much, people might think differently. I am not a Lakers fan. I will not be a Lakers fan. I am a New York Knicks fan. I have to be a little biased doing this, but I can't get away from the drama. I pick on my wife about watching these soap operas. I do it all the time. I find myself last night watching more drama on the Lakers, and it hits me. As my wife's TV's on in the room, I'm out in the living room watching it, and I hear, like sand through the hourglass, so are the days of the Lakers. I mean, I'm going, listen, it's a full-blown drama. It's a soap opera.
But you like it. End. You like it.
And I don't know why. Well, I'll tell you why. Because I'm the one that came out and said, I don't think picking up Howard was a good fit. 2, Howard has not even tried this year. I'm not talking about his career. Let's get that straight right now. I'm talking about right now, this year. First of all, it's very difficult to play with Kobe Bryant. If you don't have a killer mentality and the only thing that matters to you is winning, you cannot play with a Kobe Bryant.
But then why are you a professional athlete who claims to be elite?
I have no idea what Howard's doing claiming to be elite right now because he's really far from it right now. I like the fact that Kobe Bryant called him out. The private meeting the players had obviously wasn't enough. Now, if Howard's legitimately hurt and can't play, fine, I understand. Gasol's out now. He has a legitimate injury. But here's the difference between Gasol and Howard, and I've been telling you, get rid of Howard, keep Gasol. Gasol says, I will get this done as fast as I can. I will be back. I'm going to help my team get to the playoffs. Howard is so consumed in self-pity and so worried about what everybody else thinks. And now, if you ask me, He's more worried about at the end of this year who will pick me up when I'm a free agent. I can't be injured. I can't tear something up more than it is.
There's no way he's worried about that.
Yeah, he is.
His stats have only dropped off a little bit, and he has a bad back. He wasn't even projected to come back until
he has not
after
helped the Lakers
All-Star game.
He has not helped the Lakers yet. He has not earned a red cent of that $19 million. Say he has. He can't hit a free throw. He throws a brick.
He came back with a bad bat. He wasn't supposed to be on the field. He wasn't supposed to be on the court.
Okay. He throws a free throw like he's throwing a brick.
After the surgery that he had, he was supposed to be on the court this early. Tell me that's true. Because you know it's not. Right.
You know
so
what?
He comes back early. He comes back early because he's getting a little pressure, and he tries his hardest. And then he tears up his shoulder.
Facts about Dwight Howard. And Gregg is going to defend him to the hill.
No, I'm not defending him. I'm attacking your position. Okay? And here's my question. Here's my question to you. Do you think that there is not a market for Dwight Howard?
Oh, I know there's a market, but it's not in L.A. with Kobe Bryant.
No, we're not talking about matches. I'm talking about market. And if there is a market, I feel, and this is something that, before you said that there's no way they're going to make it, then you said they might. Now you're saying that they're not. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't necessarily voice my opinion, but I sort of saw your points each time you said it. I'm not going to say that you flip-flop because I'll tell you what, this is a soap opera. And it is going up and down. And
I can't pin them one way or the other. But this time I'm on Kobe Bryant's side.
And we don't know. Oh, I've been on Kobe Bryant's side.
I'm on his side in the sense that he's going, listen, we're the number 10 10 team in the Western Conference. We're 3.5 games back. First of all,
with Gasol hurt out 4 to 6 weeks, should they trade Dwight Howard?
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll tell you why. Go get a big man, and I don't care who he is, that can play, that wants to play.
It's the only way you're going to get value.
Go get somebody that wants to play basketball. You know why? Here's why. Get rid of Howard. Go get a big guy. Here's what happens.
Atlanta's
Gasol's going to come back and play real good. And if they can keep up pace with what they're doing now and have a legitimate shot at the end to beat it, and it doesn't matter, folks. I'm letting you know this. Kobe knows he just wants to make the playoffs. He'll move on next year. But if they go in as the 8th seed, they're skunked. It don't matter.
They're walking into
They might win one game, and that's it in the playoffs. But here's the thing. You get a young guy in there, a tall guy that wants to play. Get a big man under there that gives you a better chance. 2, here's the biggest problem of having 2 big men in L.A. Mike D'Antoni. Mike D'Antoni does not know how to use both of them. Mike D'Antoni doesn't use them properly, and 2, the Lakers' advantage.
Let me help you out with this. Name me another coach that's ever coached in the NBA that had potential 2 big men that were headed to the Hall of Fame, a point guard head to the Hall of Fame,
I don't know,
and a Kobe Bryant type first ballot, you don't even have to figure it in, and can't get it done. You've never seen it.
No.
And I'm not pointing to his coaching, and they have had injuries, and I get that. But what you can't tell me is that they're being used the best way possible to get it done. They thought about running Kobe into the ground. It didn't work. Why? Because you have no consistency between Gasol and Dwight Howard, and that goes straight to D'Antoni. Man, World Peace was playing good. Earl Clark is coming out of nowhere, and he's doing his job. But at the end of the day, and
which
they have
is why I just said,
and they have
Kobe Bryant, Clark, Nash,
and they have gone on a little roll. But at the end of the day, like I told you, if you can't trust Dwight Howard. I get he's a guy that has his likes and this and that, whatever. You can't trust him. If you can't trust him, you trade him. And you trade me for, I don't care what you get for him. Get out. Atlanta's been pushing hard to try to get him. Fine. Ship him there for Al Horford, a draft pick, and someone else coming off the bench so they can actually do something. Pick up, try to get a Hibbert from the Clippers, although they're probably not going to get rid of him. Or, what Shaq said, Brooke Lopez was better than Dwight Howard. Guess what?
Oh, wait.
He's looking pretty smart right now. And I told
who's been saying that?
Hey,
every radio show.
I told Shaq he was crazy.
Every radio show when you said...
No, you're right. I'm absolutely wrong in this.
I'm telling you, look at Lopez the other night. 30 points, 11 rebounds,
You know what? Well, let me
ask
you this. This is something that we asked on the website, LarryandGregg.com. Who's the weakest link
in the Lakers?
Between Pau Gasol and Dwight Howard.
Dwight Howard. Don't even got that. Ain't even a question.
100%.
Yep. Because of what you just said, Pau gives 100% every time he's on the floor. He can't stand being on the bench. He don't mind playing the role.
A lot of people can't stand being on. 100% though.
100%. This year.
Then why haven't we seen what he did in the playoffs for Spain? Why haven't we seen that on the Lakers? Where was he last year when Kobe was supposed to get his three-peat ring to match Jordan?
And spark something in his ass. Maybe bringing Howard and sparked it. Sometimes you need that.
Maybe it did, but that also goes to the inconsistency that we see in Howard.
I agree with you totally. I'm not talking about the last few years. I'm on Kobe's shirt tail right now with, we're 3.5 back. It's go time. We can't have a down game. We got no time left. And here's the problem. Houston, who's the 8th seed right now, is playing well and can maintain.
They're going to be
Memphis is playing well and can maintain.
Wants to play Memphis.
And Portland could slip in somewhere. So now, who's I believe in front of the Lakers anyways. So you don't have a game off. Every game is like playing your last one and hoping you get in the playoffs. And that's why I'm on board with Kobe when he's going, Dwight. And here's what gives Kobe the leverage to say and make the comment he made. He's played with injuries. I've seen Kobe. He's been so injured at times, and he's always on the floor. Kobe plays to win, and he is a team player. He is a Laker.
I get disgusted with people that say, oh, I hate Kobe because of this, because of that. The fact of the matter, that guy plays, and he plays hurt. He plays with injuries that he should have surgery for a long time ago, wasted the offseason, which is why he was so disgusted with Shaq, who waited at the end of that contract to actually get surgery. You talk about the Lakers and who they have to face and everything like that. Look, the fact of the matter is, without Dwight Howard and Pau Gasol out 4 to 6 weeks, they need to make their run right now. They need to win.
And what they better do, the 21st is coming up. Make a trade. Get somebody.
They need to be in the position, and this is just projected. They need to be in the position where they win at least 48 games just to make the Western Conference 8 seed, which is going up against either San Antonio
and they need 20 more wins.
Or Oklahoma City. They need 25 more wins.
Well, let's start with this. On them 25 wins, tonight they play Boston.
Yeah, and that's uphill.
Who's been playing better without Rondo? They've won 5 in a row. And I'm not saying they're better without Rondo.
No, I understand. Now, a lot of people would challenge you on that. I am not.
If you challenge, you're crazy. You don't watch basketball.
Well, they lost their if we can get on the Celtics for a little bit, they lost 6 games in a row with Rondo. Rondo gets hurt. Then they win the next 5. And they have players that can obviously play, that can fill in, that have filled in, and done a good job. Nobody in the league will say that the Celtics are better without Rondo. But what they will say is that other players are able to get time and prosper. What's going to hurt them is when they get into the playoffs and Rondo's not there, and their guard play and being able to play defense and translate that defense into offense. Yep. You're asking Paul Pierce to do more. You're asking Garnett to do more. And that's good, even with the Sullinger out. Melo, still coming off the bench. The problem with that is you're asking those old guys to do too much too early. Yep. That's April, May type stuff, you know. And when they're doing it now, they're going to run out of gas.
Well, the thing, too, is, you're exactly right. You're asking them old legs to do a lot. Let's get back for a minute on the Western Conference. Here's what I meant by the Lakers have to win. Every game is a playoff caliber game for them. Why? We said Portland, we said Houston. No one's even talking about Golden State or Utah, who are sitting 6th and 7th or 5th and 6th in the Western Conference. And both teams, let me tell you about Golden State. You better watch out for them boys.
They're coming hard, man.
And they are playing like they ain't got a dang thing to lose.
Mark Jackson has them.
Woo! And I'll tell you, it's Denver's playing well. So I think LA has their hands full. I mean, they don't have a night off by no means, and they're losing to Boston right now tonight.
Which is why it goes to the first part of this conversation, which is Kobe has to challenge Dwight because Dwight's never had the pressure put on him, and what he needs is him to get through. And let's understand, he's injured with his back, and he feels tingling and everything like that. You wouldn't know it by the way he runs up and down the court. At the same time, he also has a shoulder problem, but his shoulder problem is not going to get worse. It's physically impossible for his shoulder to get worse, if it's the injury that they say he has. Now, the tough part is Dwight Howard is in the last year of a contract. He stands to make over $100 million, so he has to weigh, do I go in and make sure that this team wins and I give it my everything, even though that puts me in a bad spot when my back's not 100% and now my shoulder isn't? Or do I rest, take the heat, and put myself in a position where I can tell a team that I'm going to be healthy? Mm-hmm. So it's health over rep and swag.
Yep.
And I don't know what she's going to choose.
Well, here's the problem, Greg.
And Kobe don't care about swag. He wants championship.
Well, here's the problem, and you know I can't help it. Every week I bring this up. No matter what, if it's in the subject matter of the show or not, something about the Lakers come up. I can't get away from it. We're only a couple of weeks away, a matter of a handful of games, before we'll know the fate of the Lakers. And I'm going to tell you what, in 5 to 8 games, if they realize they're out and they have no chance of getting in, you're going to see big drama on that team. From the coach, will he be staying? Kobe's going to be angry. There's going to be dissension on that team. And I'm going to tell you what, I see if they don't get rid of Howard on the 21st, I guarantee at the end of the year he asks for a trade. What's the chances Kobe walks up and says, "No, I want you to stay. You'll be here for us next year."
You don't want him. You don't need him.
So, anyways, folks, that's the way.
And one last thing, if you can get his $19 million off the cap roster, which is already way over, get out of it and get somebody. Get 2 people. Get Al Horford and Crawford from the Clippers. Get somebody.
And anyways, one more thing in the NBA. That Seattle-based group, led by Chris Hansen right now, is making big moves, Greg. They're another step closer to moving the Kings to Seattle. They have David Stern on their side. He believes they're a real great organization. Also, it looks like they're going to be playing in Seattle at Key Arena for 2 years, possibly 3. The contract's reading. I think you're going to see them going quick. They're going to be out of Sacramento.
You know what? I think the community will definitely support them. I also think that this is one of David Stern's last good acts. I think that he really didn't like when they left, but I also think that they didn't have a choice.
Right.
And I think, all the drama that was going on with the Maloofs, that's just part and parcel as to why they're actually leaving. So when I hear that they're going to Seattle, I think a lot of people are happy. You know, and you talk about a rejuvenation of old Seattle retro gear.
Oh, man.
That's exactly what you're going to see. And, for people that haven't been to Seattle, I'm telling you what, it's a budding place, man. And they're really trying to do some things. And, it's a nice community, and they support everybody.
Yeah. Well, anyways, folks, for those of you that don't know what's really going on with that or why, basically what it looks like is the Maloffs are selling 65% of the team to the Seattle-based group led by, like I said, Chris Hansen. Believe it or not, there's a lot involved in this, and the reason is it's a big upgrade for the team and the players. The league's going to a larger television market. Something to keep in mind when the national TV deal, Greg, is I believe it's 2016. It expires for the NBA.
Yep.
They'll be able, by moving the Kings to Sacramento, they're going to be able to go to a larger local TV deal, and they're going to give up splitting the pot with the players are for Sacramento or for the Seattle are going to get the whole thing. Why? They're going to go from being the 4th team in LA to the number 1 team in Seattle.
Yeah.
Hansen and his group.
A couple of big markets up there.
Hansen and his group know this. They understand it. They made a big move. Knowing that, I think it's going to be big. And like you said earlier, the fans in Seattle, they can't wait. They're so excited. They're ready. They'll buy tickets as soon as that team lands.
Just ask the Seahawks.
Yeah, exactly. All right, folks, moving on a little bit. A little talk about The Giants. We're going to get into the NFL a little bit.
The Giants.
The trade talks. The Giants this week cut Ahmad Bradshaw, who was not only a great running back for him, but even Eli Manning says he was a great blocker. He was a great pass rush blocker. They also cut on the defense Chris Canty. Last week, they cut Michael Boley. Basically, all this is to get under their salary cap. They were projected to be $4.7 million over the salary cap,
right?
And they have to keep. They got to clear room because they got to keep guys like Victor Cruz. They got to keep guys like Stevie Brown, Andre Brown. You know what I mean? It was okay. We got that Wilson kid running well. I'm not sure if Bradshaw, from the talent aspect, he's a loss. That's a big loss. But when you're in professional sports and you start talking about salary caps, you got to go where,
look, we're talking about a running back
whose years are limited, anyways.
We're talking about a running back. He knew he was going to get gone. I mean, so that's next.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But anyways, like we talked about earlier, a little bit of hockey for you. Last night. Big rivalry game. This week, it's big rivalry week in hockey anyways. Last night, we saw the Canadiens at home in Montreal in the Bell Center playing the Boston Bruins. Two of your better goalies in the league. Rask for Boston, and you got Carey Price for Montreal.
Carey Price?
Casey Price. Carey
Price. I thought it was Fisher Price.
It's Carey. Almost messed me up. It ain't Fisher Price. Made me think I was wrong. I know who he is. It was a great game. In the first period, there was no score. Both goalies played well. Actually, Boston was outdone on shots on goal. I mean, Rask had a great first period. Montreal comes back in the second to score one. Subban got his first goal of the year. Actually, I think he played 21 or 22 minutes last night. That's a lot of skating. Boston come back in the third inside of 4 minutes, scored 2 goals. And Montreal could never catch him. Still kept getting shots on goal over and over. But Rask had a great game. We sat and watched a game last night. There was 100 times I thought the puck was going in for either team. Both goalies had a stellar night. Anyways, Montreal lost. I'm a Montreal fan. It was a heartbreaker. I don't want to talk more on it because Gregg's a Boston fan, and I got razzed enough last night.
And the only good thing out of all of this is that Boston's number 1 East.
Yeah.
Boom.
Well, we had another big day yesterday talking about the recruiting class, National Signing Day. Once again, who lands big? Alabama.
The way they were able to get Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara, I mean, these guys are monsters. And it seems like Alabama reloads every single year. But let's also look at Florida. They
recruiting class.
They stirred up their line, both defensive and offensive. Ohio State did real well. A surprise is Ole Miss. They got a lot of recruits. And they also put themselves in a position where they could bring a lot of big recruits in at the same time to actually get it done. And part of me thinks that these should be big stories, but the other part is these are just kids that aren't even getting used yet before they should be getting paid. And, there's a lot of people making money off their back. But at the same time, it's one thing for me if it's like, at a kid's high school, a couple of microphones, whatever. But we're talking about kids, with theatrics and, the shell game with the hats and everything like that. It should just be a simple, hey, this is what I'm doing. Because we don't want to put too much pressure on these guys. And then, when they don't live up to it, scream about the values that they should have had, going into this process when they've been hyped from the beginning. But ultimately, you have a lot of people paying attention to recruiting. It's getting bigger and bigger every year. And for a lot of good college football fans, both in the South, East, North, and West, I mean, this is like Christmas. They get to see who actually gets to be on their team. And then they actually go to YouTube and they look up the teams and they see what they're doing and, the highlights of the players and everything like that. They did the same thing in basketball. So it's not new, it's not different. But we just don't want this to get out of hand.
Well, it's just like you said earlier when we were talking about college basketball, and we were into the SEC, and you were talking about the talent pool that's down here. 5 of the top 10 recruiting classes, teams in the recruiting class, are all from the SEC. That's huge. My first thought with that is, how are you going to stop Alabama again? If they keep recruiting the best,
how do you reloading every single
Nick Saban
year
and the program he's put together?
Yeah.
He's showing kids, come here, you'll win a national title, and you're going to play in the NFL. I will get you there. I mean, he's putting teams together that are just they're phenomenal. They're huge. The style of game they play is so impressive. We're not flashy. We're not going to do all these trick things to beat you. I'm going to give the ball to the running back, and you try to stop him. And that's what they do.
We're going to punch you in the mouth because we're better.
You got to talk about Ohio State, though, coming off probation this year. They come off an undefeated season. I don't think they could have went to the national title game and beat Alabama this year.
The one thing I want to say that people have to understand, like this guy Derrick Henry from Yulee, Florida, the dude has over 10,000 rushing yards. He is a beast. 6'3", 243 pounds, and he runs a 4.7. And that we're not talking ball speed, okay? And then they get the number 2 running back, and Kamara.
Well, the thing is Florida had Yulee. They had him, and they wanted to change the position he played. And he said, "No."
Right? You know why? When's the last time Florida had a big back?
Yeah, they should try it.
Right?
And then you won't lose in the Sugar Bowl to Louisville. Quit getting these speedsters, run around the outside, this and that, blah blah blah. That's been killing you for years. You ain't learned that yet.
It's true, Florida.
You haven't learned it in the last how many years? You go get a Yulee, you send a kid up the middle, you get some blockers for him, and now you got a whole different style of football.
Look, unless you have a Tebow, unless you have a
who was a Yulee anyways?
Again, the number one thing is you can't win in the SEC by scheme. You have to be great at one thing. Yep. Florida once was great at prolific offenses as it relates to passing. Yep. They, when Meyer came here, when Meyer came to Florida, what did he do? He ran more scheme. He had a lot of skill players. He put them in space. Same thing he did in Utah. It's not new. He just had better athletes. Once he used that up, broke camp, and now they're with Muschamp. And Muschamp is all defense.
Yep. And
so they're not really looking for that type of running back, but they should be.
Right. Well, Meyer still has pulled down here in Florida. He just pulled a big receiver out of here.
He sure did, but you know what he didn't do? He didn't put himself in a position where all his athletes are going to out-athlete anybody in the SEC.
Well, I don't know. Boy, I'd have liked to see what they could have done this year. They go undefeated. I mean, that was a big statement.
Do you respect Ohio's? Forget their record. Based on how they played, do you respect what Ohio State did more than the second best team in the SEC?
No.
Right.
Because of the caliber of teams they're playing week in and week out.
That's why it doesn't matter. That's why there's no uproar. That's why no one talks about it. Well,
I tell you what, it was a great recruiting class. There's a lot of outstanding young men going to play college football at great universities. And folks, it's just going to make college football that much more fun to watch next year. So anyways, Greg, before we end this, we got a website we got to talk about. You put some hard work in, put a website together for people to go see. Going to be able to check some stuff out on us and what we're talking about.
Larry likes to give me way too much credit. We both worked on this, and it's part of the whole process that we've been working on. LarryandGreg.com, LarryandDgreg or GREGG. And from there, you'll be able to see what we're talking about during the week. You'll be able to see, you'll be able to post comments, and you'll also be able to download our podcast, MP3, and or watch it on YouTube from the website. And we'll make all that available one day after the show from now on. So LarryandGreg.com is going to be easy breezy, and we hope to see you there.
Hey, folks, there's a comment section with your email. We'll get back to you with any question, any and all questions, comments, anything. Your comments relate to the topics we're talking about on the show that week. We're going to put them on the air and answer them for you the best we can. Hey, we love talking to you again. It was great to come back tonight. And we look forward to talking to you next Thursday. There's going to be a lot of things going on between now and then. So watch your college basketball. It's fixing to get real exciting. It really is. Conference plays in full swing. College football's all lined up, ready to rock and roll next year. NBA, hey, you want to watch the Lakers? It'll be fun watching every single game they play from here on out because it's a playoff-style game for them. There's no more going, you lose and go home.
And pay attention to Boston, too. They're playing well.
Hey, folks, thanks for listening to us. This has been a great evening. We love talking to you each and every week. My name's Larry B. As always, Gregg's taking care of everything. We'll talk to you next Thursday. Have a good night.
All right.